Hi friends. If my audio sounds strange, it's because the mic is set off to the side for this particular setup. But by the looks of this and the thumbnail, I wanted to create my own Makeup by Mario Etherealized Moonlight eyeshadow palette, which I don't have a problem buying. This is something I would buy because I do have his original Ethereal Eyes, which I think is one of his best releases for eyeshadow, especially from the ones he first released when his brand dropped years ago. And I think this is absolutely stunning. It was limited, it came back recently, maybe a few months ago, maybe not so recently anymore. But when I saw that Moonlight palette, I said, oh my goodness, those shades are right up my alley because of the inclusion of the taupes and the navies and these guys here, which I'm looking at the photo. I'll post the photo that I'm looking at now for reference on Instagram. That these textures here are lovely. They're so lightweight, but have a lot of sparkle to them, where they have incredible twinkle and might be hard to see. I'm trying to angle my wrist so you could catch that reflectivity. Very soft to the touch. And I'll go into comparison with Natasha Denona shadows. And the reason why I have I Need a Nude and Xenon out is because when I saw Moonlight, I thought, that palette is a combination of these two here, and I thought it will be fun to create our own Ethereal Eyes Moonlight palette. So I will start with the first shade here, which looks to be like a champagne type of a gig. I think it's one of these sparkly shades here from the Ethereal Eyes palette, and I'm looking at these swatches, but I don't know what order. I think they're going in order of formula, not necessarily row or column, if I'm not mistaken. But that first champagne-y shade, I would probably choose, Mia is a little too cool tone, but Sheen might actually be something we can use for that first shade. The second shade appears to be quite silvery, and we could go in with Neve or Stellar. I think Neve will be great, right? So I'm going to put that next to Sheen. We have then this, what looks to be a taupey type of a matte. Let me hop back onto these swatches to see if I can successfully identify the tone. I think it might be a taupe. Yes, okay. It's more of like a rosy taupe from the swatch, right? And with that said, I think I'm going to go in with either mesh or stone. Mesh might be it. I think mesh will be a suitable choice for that taupey kind of a matte. And we have this midnight blue metallic shade, and my eye is immediately going to Ebb. Ebb can be our navy metallic of choice, so we'll put that there. For the next row, I think we can go in with stone. Either stone or tender. Stone, I think, will be closer to that more neutral taupe because it actually looks quite gray in the swatch, but you know, that's what we have for now. Tender, I think, might be a closer match to the undertone, but the color might be too dark, which, you know, is fine, right? Because if you're deeper than me, that might be something to consider if you have these two palettes. The next sparkly shade looks to be like a more of like a bronzy backdrop, and that leads me to pick Muse. Muse, I think, will be lovely. And to give you a quick comparison between these formulas, this is Natasha's Muse, and this is Makeup by Mario. But you can see that Natasha has a lot more body to the backdrop of the formula, whereas Makeup by Mario's, I'm not entirely sure what he calls his sparkly arcly formula, but it's more like a fabric, and it actually doesn't have the same amount of adherence, where I would recommend someone use a primer or even a concealer, something stickier that will ensure that the contents of this formula stick on the lid and they don't float away. The next one appears to be more of a stony type of a backdrop for the sparkly arcly shade. And I'm Delilah could be it. Delilah or Skift. My gosh, I can't read. Skift, excuse me, Skift. I think I'm gonna go with Delilah. I think Delilah kind of mimics what I'm seeing in the photo. Although I think in the photo that appears to have a little more gray, which is why I thought maybe this guy. You know what? I'm gonna go in with Skift, actually. Let me plop you down. Let me put back Delilah. We got the gray, and of course I'm going straight in with Snert. You know what I mean? That was easy. Especially when I saw the swatch, I'm like, yeah. I'm happy I held off Tender, because this taupe that's coming up next, definitely I feel is a good match. So we're gonna plop that down. We have a ivory type of a beige sparkly shade, and from what we have left, this can be a little tricky because it's ivory, but it's cool because we have the more silver leaning sparkly arcly shade up here in the first row. Now we need something that's not bronze, that's not silvery, somewhere in the middle. Maybe do I have to hop into... No, I Need a Warm is not gonna have that shade. It's going to be far too warm, just implicated by the name. Maybe this will be wild card. Maybe I could go in with either Mia here or Snowbow, which is not exactly what I see in that photo, but you know what? Just because it's different, I'm going to put it there anyway. We got the navy, and unfortunately, Xenon doesn't have a dedicated navy. And listen, if Safari was midi sized, I would hop into Safari, because I think, was there a navy in Safari? I can't recall. No, maybe it was teal and not so much navy. This color here, I think Ebb was the most navy leaning from Xenon. What to do? That's crazy. Natasha doesn't have a navy in the middies? I'm racking my brain. Also, I realized we could have pulled some taupey mattes from Glam, but that's fine. This might have to be something different. It's gonna have to be something different. I either could go in with Night Sky or Splosh. Night Sky is the metallic shade and Splosh is the cream to powder. So I might have to go with Splosh, just because it's more matte leaning. It's not navy. It's not navy, but we got a little navy from Ebb, so it's okay. And last but not least, we have what appears to be a classic black matte. And the black matte, you know what? Let me get Dream. Black is Black from I Need a Dream, my Dream palette, making up names. Because, you know, listen, Night Sky could have been fine. Or if I wanted to mix it up, wrong pan. I could have went in with Cygnus. Cygnus would have been interesting, because it's like that blackened charcoal metallic with beautiful sparkle, as you see. But I wanted to keep it consistent with what exists in Ethereal Moonlight. But that is something you can do 100%. And, you know, if you were or had your eye on Ethereal Moonlight because it had a black matte, then you could pull Black is Black from My Dream if you have My Dream. All right, we have our makeshift Ethereal Moonlight palette. What do we think? Is this gonna work? We're gonna slap some of these on. I don't know how many looks I'll create, but we'll see how much time I have, because these days are getting shorter, which is fine, but the sunlight is an issue that I have been dealing with. At this point of the day, it starts to get a little too dark for my liking, but it's all good to go. But I think what we have here is not too bad. So let me get back behind the camera and I'll see you in a bit. Fast enough. Don't mind the house clip. This is post-training. I'm trying to get more footage in, and the hair might not be as film ready as I like. And I hate the way I did this part. It's been bothering me ever since my Luminous Legends video. Here is our makeshift Makeup by Mario Ethereal Moonlight palette using Natasha Denona's I Need a Nude and Xenon. I'll start with Pat's primer first and foremost. I don't have any lipstick on, but I did slap on my Suqqu Foundation, which, by the way, look at this jar. It's almost done, and I have been mulling over whether I should purchase a new foundation from a completely different brand. It's hard for me to divorce from the Suqqu Foundation. You know, just look at my face. Okay, it's what I have on now. I also slapped on their blurring blush from the winter collection in 124, 123, one of those numbers. I didn't apply highlight just yet, you know, in case I get inspired by the look we create and choosing a different highlight that I had in mind. But let me tap this. I get so distracted with my own tangents, my goodness. We could first go in with a taupe, maybe to, you know, create that socket that eyeshadow brushes, hello? Definitely want to use Rephr's shadow brushes because I just adore how they place color on my crease. So we could go in with the more rosy taupe versus the more neutral. And my apologies for not having the names. That's something Natasha Denona, I wish she did, that Danessa did with her Lightwork 6 pans, that she has the label underneath each so we know what the color is. You don't have to have the name of the palette, although that'll be extremely helpful, but at least having the name, I don't know, because I forgot what's what, but the taupes are definitely from I Need a Nude. This is like playing, what is that called? The memory game? I think Stone was the more taupey and Muse was the more neutral taupe. So let me go in with Stone first, and I'm placing that through the crease. And Stone on me is quite cool, and I do like its shading effect on my socket. It's not too gray, but it does definitely have that cooler element to it. And I'm pulling that under the lash line as well, just to create a little more smoke there. Following up with, we could go in with the navy metallic. Ethereal Moonlight has that navy metallic on the fourth pan on the top row, and that I remember is Ebb from Xenon, which I pulled. We could go in with this. Maybe we'll save that for the lash line smoke, and we'll use one of the sparkly Arcleys here. And maybe I can go in with what I think is, no, what am I saying? Tender Mesh. I said that last taupe was Muse. I think that actually was Mesh? I don't remember. Anyway, I'm taking this guy, definitely from I Need a Nude. That I can say for sure. And pulling it across my lid. The standout difference that I observe between Natasha Wet Effects, which I think this is, and Makeup by Mario Sparkly Arcley. I'm sure he has a name to describe that formula, but I have no idea what it is. My apologies. That the Natasha Denona Wet Effect has more stick, and what I feel is an advantage because the Makeup by Mario, the contents in that shadow, I don't know how it's formulated, but it's so floaty. It's floaty where if you brush over it, it will whisk away. Like, it's so lightweight that it doesn't have the same grab as Natasha's Wet Effect, which, look at that. Even on, well, I could say I didn't place that taupe all over my lid, but the Pat McGrath primer is just enough to create that beautiful adherence. And my goodness, this is just, it's just incredible. Now I'll go in with Ebb, and I'll use my number 2 shadow brush in first starting along the lash line and then carrying it on the outer corner a little bit, just a light serving of this navy metallic. And you could have went in with Ebb first and then go in with Muse or Mesh, whatever this shade is. Even though I Need a Nude didn't make my top 5 MIDI list for Natasha, I do adore the Wet Effect formula from the brand. I think it's one of Natasha's best. The reflectivity of the shadow is just immense, and pickup superb, where you don't have to wiggle the brush too much. You get really nice pickup. Ooh, that's nice. I like what's happening so far. We could also go in with a black shadow along the lash line to create a little more smoke and dimension if you like. But let's now go into the other eye, and we can start off with the heftier taupe. This I know for sure is Tender from I Need a Nude. I remember rhymes because I was figuring out if I wanted to present that first taupe as the one I encountered in Moonlight, but I decided to save Tender for the more taupey role. And listen, I don't wear these shades often because they're not my go-tos, but I gotta say, there's something about this undertone that creates structure through my crease in a way that's not too smoky or too cool tone on my complexion. I don't know why, I don't know how, but I love it. And carrying Tender a little bit here on the outer corner of my lower lash line. And we can now introduce, well, I don't have the navy, what I think is a navy matte from Moonlight. I do have Splash and Ebb from Xenon. I can give myself a heavier serving of Ebb if I wanted, or I could try to go in with Snert, which is the gray, but I feel that the gray could have went here instead of that lighter taupe. But I think I want to go in with this guy, which I believe is Delilah, I think, from I Need a Nude. But Snowbow, I think, will be interesting because Snowbow has that blue pearl in there. Yeah, because I think Delilah and Muse will be too close together. So to create a little more distinction, I'm going in with Snowbow, Baobo from Xenon. And see how that's just a little icier? Oh, but it is absolutely gorgeous. I love the shade, not only across the entire lid, but can be applied exclusively to your inner corner for some highlight effect. But that is just remarkable. So I love Xenon so much. You can add in, if we did have that navy, and I'm trying to rack my brain, not just from the middies, but from all of Natasha's palettes. She has to have a navy somewhere. Hold on. No, she just has Fata Morgana, the teal. Ugh. It's fine. What I'll do is maybe use a little bit of Splash. It's the cream to powder that I use to substitute a makeshift navy matte. Imagine this is navy, but instead it's more of a charcoal gray, which actually is quite lovely. And I do enjoy the fact that Splash is made in the cream to powder formula because it actually, in my opinion, not only easy to apply, but incredibly easy to blend because it has more movement versus a traditionally formulated powder matte, and I think easier, especially for beginners, to apply and blend with. And I'm cutting across here along the lash line just to create a little more continuity here from lash line into outer V. We didn't even do inner corner stuff. All right, so I'll go in with, I know for sure, was it Stone? No, it was Sheen. Sheen, this guy here, to be my inner corner highlight of choice on the first eye, which is more beigey leaning. Not a problem at all. I'm gonna cut across here. Actually, we'll go in with more Ebb because I want this to appear more prominently on the outer V and to also take it heavier on the outer corner of my lash line. And then maybe using my Shodo 00 to create a heavier serving on the outer V here, because I am partial to the smoky wing. I can't help it. Every time I encounter the slightest possibility of it emerging, I just commit to it completely and utterly. And have to devote myself to the smoky angled wing. All right. That's nice. That looks a little more navy. That looks a little more charcoal. I will now, this eye. Ooh, the silver, the silvery sparkly arcly. For the second eye, let me make sure I wipe my brush, and we'll take the more silvery sparkle shade on the inner corner for the charcoal eye, yes. And we'll whip it along the inner part, but we'll bring more splosh inward so those shadows can connect and the gradient will appear smoother. Ooh, that's pretty. I like that. Now, you realize, okay, because I wanted to combine the navy and the charcoal, you could have kept it simpler by just applying the taupier matte through the crease for that contouring effect and then overlay with the sparkly wet effect shades. That's probably the most straightforward way to go if you want it to appear more taupe neutral. And of course, invite the navy and the whatever, the grays too, that you've seen in my Xenon tutorials, right? Where I try to break it down so that not all looks appear the same from Xenon, because that was one of the more forward-leaning critiques about it. But now that we have both eyes on, let's apply some lashes and lipstick, and I'll be right back. Here are the final looks using Natasha Denona shadows from I Need a Nude and Xenon to create our makeshift Ethereal Eyes Moonlight eyeshadow palette. I love how these looks turned out, and definitely is quelling the urge to buy this palette despite what I had said at the beginning of the video. Yes, the answer is still yes. Would I buy this? Sure, if I didn't have these shadows already. And I would argue if you don't have I Need a Nude or Xenon, maybe consider getting Makeup by Mario's palette, because it is smaller in size, more compact. It will be this size. This is the original Ethereal Eyes, which is a lot warmer, right? But I think just based off the photos, I don't know for sure because I didn't swatch the palette in person, but the sparkly arcly shades just from sight alone I think are consistent with what exists in Ethereal Eyes, as well as the mattes. I love the mattes too. They're easy to blend, pick up, and manipulate on the skin. Very, very soft, but also the color is there. I just haven't used this in quite some time, and I didn't think it wise for me to purchase Ethereal Eyes Moonlight, considering that I don't use Ethereal Eyes a ton to begin with, and I already have I Need a Nude and Xenon. I don't have to, you know, pull out the pants like I did for this video, which I will have to now visit Natasha's site for reference to return these pants to their respected magnetic frame places, because I forgot a lot of these. The memory game is failing. All that to say, now that I have curated my own Moonlight palette from Natasha Shadows, if I wanted a Moonlight moment, an Ethereal Eyes Moonlight moment, I have it in my collection. I could just pull those palettes out and make it happen. But realistically, I haven't been wearing a lot of eyeshadow to begin with, and it's nice to see these taupes, navies, and grays together in this way. And I'm happy that I took the time to arrange these shadows, because I think pairing the taupes with the navies and the charcoals and the grays is a beautiful compilation, and definitely inspired me to use taupes more, and especially the Natasha Denona ones, because the undertone for her taupes work well on my medium to tan complexion, where it doesn't look too gray cast on my skin tone, but it's cool enough to appear cool but still give that nice contouring effect through my crease that still appears soft and sophisticated. And her wet effect formula, it's just no words with how beautiful it is. And to know I can just slap on one of her taupe mattes, slap on one of her wet effects across the lid and be done. Maybe go in with black coffee or any of her darker brown mattes found in her palettes, I Need a Nude or I Need a Warm, across the lash line, and the look complete but beautifully impactful again. Because look, the dazzle, all right? The sparkly arcly is there. So hopefully, family, this helped you to inspire you to do the same. If you have both palettes and you wanted to create your own moonlit palette, not just from Natasha Denona shadows, but other singles that you might have in your collection, other palettes that have the magnetic capabilities that's found in Natasha Denona, maybe Viseart. I'm sure Viseart, there's a Moonlight situation in Viseart. 100%. All that to say, family, thank you so much for joining me, and if you have made it this far, please consider liking the video and consider subscribing to see more makeshift eyeshadow palette videos, tutorials, reviews, and the like. I'll see you down in those comments, and I will see you on here next time.